You know, divine order can sometimes look messy. And yet it is here and now present. And I was sitting, beholding Ari's wonderful song. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yes. Very, very beautiful. Tears. Yeah, yes, the tears. And I was thinking about the prayer of protection from that one. And it says the light of God surrounds me. But what is true is the light of God is within me. It's not just around me, it is in me. And it is in you. And there's a way that we have lived in a conditioned mindset that believes in God and the Christ awareness is somehow outside of us. And that we're always looking in the outer world for validation of that idea. And I was reading something from someone, I think it was Charles Fillmore, he was talking about how there's a difference between living a Christian life and living a life with Christ within. The Christian life follows the principles and practices. The Christ within knows that we don't have to follow anything, we follow what is here. It is given to us, it is innate in us. When the world began, light moved across the face of creation, and all life on this planet is connected to light. And I heard a teacher once call light living in God's holy thoughts. Living in God's holy thoughts. So what are God's holy thoughts? Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because this is our inheritance. It is a divine inheritance. We are not separated from this depth of being. You know, if you take a drop, Rumi talks about you are not the ocean you are the ocean in a drop, not a drop in the ocean. If you take a sample of ocean water, it's going to look like the whole ocean. It's going to look like the whole ocean in that little drop. That's who we are. We are these beings of enormous light that have been conditioned to believe that somehow we are less than that inheritance. And it takes practice to actually deepen the awareness of what it is like to be filled with that radiance of being. A lot of times, you and I have heard many times, here we go, now we're really going to get going. Thy will be done. How many times have we heard it? How many times have we said it? And usually it's in reference to some experience that we're having in our life that maybe we didn't put on our bingo card. We'll go, that thy will be done. Really, what is the will, though? What is thy will? If we're talking about Creator's will, Source will, the one force will, what is it? It is that we awaken to that truth within us. That is the will of God. To awaken to the truth that the light is within us and we are here to access that light, to illuminate the path before us, around us, regardless of what we find on our bingo card. Regardless of what we find on our bingo card, it is moving once again. We talk about it over and over again. I feel like a broken record sometimes. We're moving into that place of stillness. And in that stillness, there is a vast expanse of being that is waiting for us. So let's break it down just a little bit. Let's take it down into bite-sized pieces because the idea of light is so enormous. There would be no life on this planet without light. There would be no life within us without light. But what does it mean to stand in light? One of the first points into light is wisdom. And I'm going to give you a scripture from James, who was Jesus' brother. This is attributed to him, though some people have doubt about it, but whatever, the words are great. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. That's James 3:17, if you want to reference that. We can take it apart just a little bit. The idea is it's pure. When it comes to you, there will be a loving vibration to it. It will be clear. It will be understandable. And very often, the clarity and the purity is simple. A 5-year-old might be able to understand when wisdom lands. Most of us think of wisdom on an intellectual level, and it's very complex, and there's lots of moving pieces, but it is not. It is very simple, and it is understandable by the wee ones. That said, I had an experience once where I learned the lesson that clarity without compassion is cruelty. We can be as clear as a bell. We can be filled with light. We can understand the situation that's in front of us. And then we speak to someone else, and our wisdom cuts like glass, broken glass, because we do not have compassion behind the wisdom. I was leading a women's workshop. It was an 8 program called Women Awake. And there was one woman we will call Meg in this group, and we would do group sharing every week. And there was about 16 women in the group. And every week she had a story about how life had done her wrong, about how her body was falling apart, how life was unfair. Every week she had the same story. And at one point, I call her Badger Woman. It's an aspect of me that I met in meditation when she was, and I goes, zoom, boom. And I spoke to her very, very clearly about how she was generating a life filled with mishaps, misapprehensions, distortions, discomfort, because she'd forgotten who she was. And because she was rehearsing the stories over and over again, she was going to see results that matched the story that she was rehearsing over and over again. So when it came through, it was very clear, but my heart of compassion was not in it. At the end of the class, when I walked away, I could feel that I was off base. Not that the information was not sound principle, but it was because I had not delivered it with purity of heart. The next week we got together, and the first thing I did was apologize. And I said, well, I understand that the information that came through felt very clear in the moment. I forgot to ask if you wanted feedback. And if you wanted feedback in private or in public. And I forgot to check in afterwards to see how you received the feedback. I realized I just went boom and burned her to the ground, basically, is the image I had. And she accepted the apology, and she kept coming back to the group. Her daughter came up to me afterwards and said, you know, Sandra Gail, I really appreciate what you said to my mom. She needed to hear it. And that's one of the reasons why we don't all share, because you will go boom and bring in some very strong wisdom that is not backed with compassion. I learned very clearly in that circumstance, it is not enough to be wise. We have to be pure of heart when we deliver anything to another person. And we also have to ask their permission to receive. And it's one of the hardest things that happens, is when you say, would you like some feedback? And the person goes, no. The hardest thing is to step back, walk away, and allow them maybe to come back to ask for feedback later, or maybe go find it somewhere else, but to release ourselves as a teacher, release ourselves as a savior, release ourselves as a guide for other people to move into a place where we recognize, like Charles Fillmore talked about, we're here to educate. So when Charles Fillmore created Unity, he said this is an educational system. He didn't say it was a religion. He said this is an educational system. We're learning how to master the heart-mind connection, the heart-mind connection. We're learning how to live in a way where we don't accrue any more karma or psychological pain. And part of his training came from Emily Cady. And this is what she said: to educate comes from educare, which means to lead forth. It never means to force into the outside, but always draw out from within something already existing there. To educate never means to force into from the outside, but always draw out from within something already existing there. Infinite wisdom lies in every human being, waiting to be let forth. This is true education. This is what Unity is about. If you come to Unity, we're here to train ourselves to move past how our mind has been conditioned over time. And for many of us, that conditioning began early with traditions that said we are not good enough, we have no value or worth, and somehow God essence is separate from us. And we're going to always have to seek to please a God that is outside of us. Many of us grew up in those traditions. And we're being invited to undo all of those things. Why? Because those things obscure the light that is within us. Yeah, I heard you. The other aspect, one of the other aspects of light is truth. So we've got wisdom and we have truth. And what is truth? Truth is not necessarily attached to our opinions or perceptions. How many of us have had someone say, well, this is the truth, and you're looking at them going, really? Is that really the truth? If we look at and settle down into what is the truth, what is the truth? We are imbued with creator light force. That is the truth. When we can see past the fallacies and dysfunction and distress that the world offers us, regardless of the face that we see opposite of us holding those patterns, when we can see into the innocence of another person, and we will be challenged every day with this, to see the innocence in another person, whether we know them or there's someone on TV or wherever we see it, when we can look and go, oh, there's innocence in there. They're also connected to the light, to the greater light. They too are the ocean in a drop. When we can live in this place, we begin to soften about the fellow humanity, the humanity that we all share. And then we're working into releasing the idea that somehow we're separate from each other. Yeah, we have individual bodies, we have individual desires and needs and exploration in the world, all of that is true, but on a quantum level, we are all connected. We are all connected. And so what I hold in my heart and my mind and my thinking about you will impact me. It might impact you. And if what I'm holding is your beauty, your innocence, your radiance, if that's what I'm holding, I become a blessing in the world. That's what you're holding. You become a blessing. If I'm standing with the idea of they're doing it wrong, they need to think differently, they're not doing it the right way. If I'm standing in judgment, I am accruing psychological pain. I am banking harshness into my being. And it is something that eventually I will be asked to be liberated from or liberate myself from, because that is baggage and that is weight. And most of us are in an age in our life where we do not want to accrue any more baggage. We have a storage unit. Many of us have storage units. Oh my. We don't need to add any more to that. And the third aspect of one of the third, I call it the third aspect, but there's multiple aspects of light. The third aspect is revelations. It's revelation, revealing that which is hidden. We're here to undo the conditioning that has obscured the light that is within us, to reveal the depth of being that we truly are. And in that depth of being, we have a capacity to serve the world in remarkable ways. And it doesn't mean that we have to sign up to be the leader of a nation. It doesn't mean that we have to have a specific job. It means that we're being called inwardly to open the vault of light that lives within us. Time for a water break. Charles Fillmore says the truth you know is the truth you use. The truth you know is the truth you use. So be very conscious when speaking the truth of the matter is, because we all do that. The truth is, whatever we're following that up with is that's the truth we will live into. And how many times have we spoken of the truth is while we're blasting another person? I know I did it. I did it with Meg. I had truth, but I blasted her. So we're being invited once again to explore what is truth for us, what is truth for us. And right now, one of the things I think we could do is we could just pause. And if it feels comfortable, maybe let the feet rest on the floor. Let the eyes close if that's safe and comfortable. And just allow everything to settle. And if it feels okay, maybe we place our hand on our heart chakra, our heart center. Maybe both hands. Some people do it in prayer. Whatever feels good. Just find breath here. And hold the idea that I'm light. Take that in, I am light. The illumination of spirit resides within me now. I am connected and always have been to source, to creator. Regardless of what the world outside of my eyes says, I am safe here. And in this moment, I allow myself to soften, to let go of expectations, to release worry and fear, doubt, and anything that is obscuring the light within me. I invite the light in my heart to meet the light in my mind, to open that channel from the mind to the heart. I am imbued with Christ's light. That which is hidden shall be revealed. I welcome the liberation of my heart and mind to reveal the light that I am. And gather a big breath here and let it go. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do to address the obscuration of the light within us. I know you're going to be really surprised when I talk about the forgiveness. I know you're going to be really surprised when I talk. So I may have mentioned before, in Aramaic, forgiveness, Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke, Aramaic, forgiveness is the word to untie. So many of us have spent a lot of time exploring the things that we did that caused us to have miss the mark there. Sometimes we remember things other people did where they missed the mark and we were impacted by it. We've spent a lot of time combing through our lives, finding the places where we can forgive other people, because that's where we always start, with other people. And now we're moving into a more rarefied exploration. Clara touched on it last week. It is the way that we judge, moving into forgiveness for the judgments that we hold about ourselves and about other people or situations. And if it is not clothed in the raiments of light, if it is not pure, peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy, impartial and sincere, chances are what we've done is we've added to our psychological pain or our karma by judging ourselves or people. And so allowing each day at the end of the day to have a pause. This is what Charles Fillmore did. Reviewing the day and seeing if there's any place in the day where he left part of himself behind because of actions, judgments, or words. That we do a fine-tooth comb now, because most of us have explored the ideas of lessons in truth and all of the Fillmore teachings. Many of us have explored them for years, and now we're getting down to it is not just enough to know we have to do it. And I'm speaking to myself as much as I am to you. If we move into separation, if we see another person as separate from the whole of humanity, when we do othering, when we are not inclusive, that's another point where we're being asked to untie our judgment, because the idea that we're separate from all of creation is part of what has gotten us into the situations that the world finds itself in right now. And then last but not least, and we've spoken of it before, and here it is again, wait, W-A-I-T, why am I talking? Very often, when someone is speaking with us, we're queuing up our response to them instead of deeply listening to what is being said. So if we wait a little bit, it also works for what am I thinking, but we're not talking about talking right now. Listen closely. Observe the energy of the other person. Are they closed off? Are they open and receptive? If a person is closed off, the chances of a meaningful session of feedback is not available. You have to wait for someone to open just a little bit in order to offer feedback. But very often, I know this is part of my story, I'll jump in because I can see what's going on. And that is not helpful always. We listen, we observe, and then we see what we're feeling. We see what we're feeling. We sense into what we're feeling here. And we're going to check in and see whether or not I can be of service in this moment to this person. And this is the hardest part. Sometimes it's not to say anything, it's just a smile or a pat on the shoulder, because we don't always have to speak into other people's distress or upset. Just to be side by side sometimes is all we need. Today's talk was entitled Shine. And I hope that going forward from here today, there's a greater sense of the capacity within each of us to be that illumination in the world. Be your own sun. Be your own illumination and share that with the world. And speaking of the world, on Wednesday the 10th and Thursday the 11th is the World Day of Prayer at Unity Village. And I'm going to encourage you, if you do internet stuff, to go online because they're broadcasting the World Day of Prayer online. Mm-hmm. And you'll get prayed up and you'll feel the fullness of what it means to work, to thrive, to participate in a movement that has been praying every day, 24 hours a day for 120 years. Because that's what Unity does. We have a prayer box here where you can leave a prayer. Those go to Unity Village and they will pray over those 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is always someone on duty. So if you find your bingo card feels like it's way too full, call Silent Unity. They'll pray with you and they'll help set a mind to peace and ease and awaken the purity in the heart.